Good afternoon to Dr. Chan and fellow friends. Our group consists of myself, Noor Shahira, Susan Kavita, Noor Raiha, and Hanis Raihana. We will be presenting on the corrective feedback and uptake between high and low proficiency ESL speakers. So I will start with the introduction. Susan will talk about the methodology. Raiha will explain about the data analysis, and discussion will be explained further by Hanis. Okay, so we will start with the background of study. A second language speaker or L2 speaker is a person who uses other than a first or native language. L2 speaker will have harder time to communicate in English due to limited vocabulary and insufficient grammatical knowledge. So this will cause a few communication problem because between two speakers, because without communication knowledge, the speaker won't have an effective communication. So according to Leisters and Ranta in 1997, corrective feedback is described as the provision of negative evidence or positive evidence upon erroneous utterances, which encourages learners' repair involving accuracy and precision and not merely comprehensibility. So learner uptake is defined as a student's utterance that immediately follow the teacher's feedback, and that constitutes a reaction in some way to the teacher's intention to draw attention to some aspect of the student's initial utterance. This study is significant in the patterns of interactional moves between peers, such as the type of feedback arising from different types of errors and the type of feedback that leads to more uptake. Moving on to the objective of this study. So we have two objectives here, which are to identify the types of linguistic feedback occur in the conversation and to observe the evidence of modification of speech by the lower proficiency speaker. Okay, as for the research question, this study aims to study these two research questions, which are what types of linguistic feedback occur in the conversation, and is there any evidence of uptake or modification of speech by the lower proficiency speaker, either in response to feedback or due to awareness of communication. Next is the significance of study. Okay, it is to provide insights to corrective feedback and uptakes being incorporated within peer-to-peer interaction and to encourage further reinforcement of second language acquisition through peer-to-peer interaction. According to Sarandi, 2016, Sarandi pointed out that corrective feedback is an indication that all or part of language that learners produce is deviant. It may improve L2 speaking ability through the uptake of the CF and also repair their interlanguage. In addition, an investigation into the classification and frequency of CF in L2 speakers can also help those who are at the same level make more informative decisions when providing CF. As will be presented in the following section, the existing literature about the frequency of providing CF often produce inconsistent findings. So that is all from my part. I will pass the presentation to the next presenter.
Okay, thank you, Shah. Hi, my name is Susan and I will be presenting on the methodology. I will cover three parts of the methodology, which is the sample and instrument, theoretical framework, as well as the procedure for the analysis, alright? Okay, so for a sample and instrument, we start off by having a pair of friends, which one of them is a high proficiency speaker and the other is of a lower proficiency speaker. Now the reason that we chose friends is in order to reduce the variable of awkwardness. So in order to maintain the natural aspect of daily conversation, we made sure that they are friends so that it would reduce the awkwardness and when they as compared to if they were talking to strangers. Alright, so one thing that they need to have is they need to have a shared common interest in order to help us in the data collection. Alright, as for the instruments, we use Zoom to conduct the meeting. And our framework, we use types of oral feedback and patterns of uptake by Leicester and Renza 1987. And we also use input hypothesis by Krashen and output hypothesis by Swain in order to facilitate with our data analysis. Right, so I'm going to go and talk a little bit further about the framework. Right. So the framework that we've chosen is pattern of uptakes and oral feedback, yes, which is by Leicester and Ranta, where they've outlined the errors, feedback, as well as uptake that is done by learners and teachers. Or in this case, the learner would be the speaker of a lower proficiency, and the teacher would be the speaker of a higher proficiency, right? Alright, so the whole sequence starts off with the error made by the learner, where they make it either lexically, synthetically, phonologically, or morphologically. So once they make this error, the teacher then gives a feedback based on the error. So this feedback is in the form of an explicit correction, recast, clarification request, meta-linguistic feedback, elicitation, and repetition. So they give the feedback based on this. And after the teacher gives the feedback, the learner then makes an uptake, meaning that they do an uptake. So the uptake is divided into two parts, which is repair and needs repair. So repair in this case means that the speaker acknowledges the feedback and makes the repair based on the feedback that is given, whereas need repair refers to when they acknowledge the feedback but somehow the correction that they make is a hit or miss. Alright, so the repair portion consists of repetition, self-repair, peer repair, and the need repair portion uh, consists of acknowledgement, different error, same error, hesitation, off target, and partial repair. So at the end of this, after this would finally lead to either topic continuation or reinforcement and then topic continuation. So the reason that we've chosen types of oral feedback and pattern uptake by Leicester and Retta is that it covers all the aspect that we're looking at, which is the learner error, teacher feedback, as well as the learner uptake. So we're going to look a little bit further on the corrective feedback as well as the uptake. So there are 6 types of corrective feedback. So we'll start with the first one, which is explicit correction. So explicit correction is when the teacher gives the correct form and indicate what is wrong. So this is usually done in pronunciation of words, right? So the next one is meta-linguistic feedback. The meta-linguistic feedback contains either comments, information, questions related to the error. So this would make the learner analyze the mistakes. So for example, if we have an utterance such as a dog, the teacher would ask the student, what is the dog doing? And based on that, the student will make the correction on what is supposed to be done. Alright, so the next one is clarification request. Now this is usually in a question form such as pardon or I'm sorry. Right, and the next one is repetition, where the teacher repeats the mistake that is done in the utterance. So for example, when the student says a dog, teacher will ask a dog, right? And the next one is elicitation, where the teacher directly elicits the mistake of the learner by using pauses. So such as a dog, and the teacher say a dog. So it would show that after a dog, there needs to be a correction. And finally, we come to the last part, which is recast. Alright, recast is when the teacher repeats the utterance without the mistake, which means the teacher corrects the mistake for the student. For example, a dog, and the teacher would answer, a dog is going for a walk. Alright, and the student knows that that is the correct form of it. So these are the type of corrective feedback that is done by the teacher, or in this case, the higher proficiency speaker. So we're going to look at the uptake types that are done by the learner itself. Right, so there are 2 different types, as I've said. One is repair and need repair. The one that is repair is labeled in pink, and the one that need repair is labeled in blue. So for repair, we have 3 types: self-repair, repetition, peer repair. Now self-repair is when the student correct themselves without the teacher giving the right form. Meaning that if the student says a dog and the teacher asks them, what is the dog doing? So the student makes the repair by telling the teacher what is done. So a repetition is when the student repeats the correct form given by the teacher. So for example, when the student says a dog, the teacher says a dog is going for a walk, and the student repeats what the teacher says. And finally, we come to peer repair, Now, peer repair is has almost the same concept as self repair, where the student repairs it, but doesn't necessarily follows. But the teacher doesn't necessarily give the exact word for it. So, but the only difference between peer repair is that peer repair doesn't necessarily have to be done by the student, but by other people or a third party. Whereas that is repair. Next we come to need repair, where we start with off target. Now off target is when the learner responds to the feedback but not to the one that needs repair. So instead of repairing the one, they repair a different part of the sentence. The next is different errors. Different error is when the learner does not change the error but makes a different error instead. Okay, the next one is same error is when the student gives feedback but makes the same mistake again. And next is when this is partial repair, and that is when the student includes the correction of only a part of the initial error. So for example, the student says a dog, the teacher asks a dog, and the student replies a dog walking. So it's partially correct. And finally, we have acknowledgement. Now, acknowledgement is when the student recognizes the teacher's feedback generally by saying yes or yeah. Alright, so those are examples of uptake types as well as a corrective feedback. So without further ado, we'll look at the procedure of our research. So we started off our research by looking for participants via WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook. So after finding our participants, what we did was we asked for consent from the participants and scheduled a Zoom meeting that is most convenient for everyone. And after that, we met up on Zoom, and the participants was then briefed on the research objectives as well as significance. They were also informed that their conversation will be recorded. All right. So after they're clear of all the significance and procedure, what we did was we asked the students to talk on a specific topic. And in this case, we chose skincare routine. All right. So we asked them to speak about the skincare routine, and the conversation then started, and we recorded the conversation. So moving on, what we did was after the conversation was over, after the interaction was over, the group members, which is my group, then transcribed the conversation between the participants. And through the transcription, we observed for the patterns that were present in the conversation. And using the framework of types of oral feedback and pattern intakes by Leicester and Ranta, we then analyze the patterns. Right, so these are the procedure for our research. I will now pass it to Raiha to present on the data analysis as well as results.
Hello, I am Noreha Harazli, and I will continue to talk about the data analysis of the study. So based on the results, we have found that there are three types of linguistic feedback occurred in the conversation. First is phonological-oriented feedback, lexical-oriented feedback, as well as morphological-oriented feedback. We also found the evidence of uptake of speech by the lower proficiency speaker, repetition, acknowledgement, same error, and off-target. So in our example, H represents high proficiency speaker, while L represents lower proficiency speaker. So for phonological oriented feedback, as you can see in line 2, L has mispronounced the word nude. So she said it as nude lipsticks. So H explicitly given correction to the mispronunciation by saying, oh, no, it's nude. So this clearly indicates that what the L speaker had said was incorrect. So she, the H speaker, continually giving the correct form, providing the correct form of the mispronounced word. Next. So for the uptakes, the lower proficiency speaker, as you can see in the last line, she has positively recognizes the feedback by saying, I see. So she actually acknowledged the fact that she has mispronounced the word, but she didn't correct the word, but she just said, yeah, which means that she understood what was the H speaker saying. For the lexical-oriented feedback, as you can see, they are talking about vitamin C serum. So the L speaker said that that's why I see you getting lighter now. What she meant was it was getting brighter, the skin was getting brighter. So H wanted to clarify by saying, "What do you mean you see me getting lighter?" So she asked in a form of question to reveal that the error was incorrect with some rising tone. So she said, "What do you mean you see me getting lighter?" And after that, she recast it. She reformulated again the correct form of the word, which means, "Oh, you mean brighter?" So she recast it um, to indicate that what the L speaker was saying is incorrect. So the uptakes that has been taken by the low proficiency speaker, as you can see in the blue highlighted sentence, they say, like your skin gets more whiter. She actually responded to the feedback, but not to the targeted feedback, which are the wrong lexical items of lighter, but she said whiter. But later on, after she has been corrected, she acknowledged the mistake and she say by saying yes, yes, that is what I was meant to say. Moving on to the next linguistic feedback, which is morphological oriented feedback. So in this context, they are talking about how they want to buy the oil cleanser for their face. Um, basically talking about skincare. So L actually saying the incorrect form of cheaper, the comparative form of cheap. She said more cheaper, and then H giving feedback to her by repeating the same word. We're saying more cheaper, but slightly in a rising tone to signal that the fact that the form was incorrect. And next, the uptakes taken. Um, as you can see in the orange highlighted sentence, you can see that she repeated it. She repeats the correct form um, of a cheaper. We say, cheaper ones je. So she actually took the feedback by the speaker H, and later corrected herself by repeating the correct form of the word. Also, another uptake that can be seen morphologically. So actually, L speaker talk about God sweat letter. So she uses the incorrect form of God sweat. So H immediately clarify by asking a question like pardon, and she again responds to the feedback, but actually made the same error by saying my skin got extra sweat. So again, H immediately recast or reformulated by giving the correct form of the word, which means extra sweaty, and then later L immediately acknowledged the fact that it was wrong and she understood what is the correct form for his before she actually saying it wrong. I think that's all from me. I'll pass the floor to Hanis for more precise and detailed explanation.
Hi, my name is Hanis Rahana, and I'll be presenting the discussions as well as our conclusion. So, as seen in the data analysis provided, recast is mainly preferred by the high proficiency speaker. So, the feedback provided by speaker H were mainly implicit except for the explicit correction. This is due to the nature of the relationship, which they are friends, the setting of the interaction, and also the predetermined topic is relatable and also straightforward. So the uptakes were also evident after every feedback provided. So this shows that Speaker L was engaged to the interactions as Speaker L acknowledged most of the recast feedback given. It's about 60%, 3 out of 5 interactions with recast. So this is probably due to the user's engagement to the topic and also the content of the interaction instead of engaging on acquiring language skills. So since acknowledgements are a type of needs repair uptake that indicate that the learners might commit the same error again, however, in this case, the acceptance of speaker H's recast could be seen as an indicator of what speaker else wanted to say and they understood the feedback given. So according to Sato and Leicester in 2007, it is appropriate for learners to acknowledge recasts as they would not want to interrupt the flow of the lesson. So as this is a natural interaction, Speaker L's uptakes of acknowledging recasts can be seen as a way for Speaker L to not interrupt the flow of the conversation and for them to lead with topic continuation. So with that, I'll go into conclusion. To conclude, within the short interaction between these two ESL speakers, the study has revealed that recast feedback is most preferred for the high proficiency ESL user to use as a feedback mechanism. So due to the lack of linguistic resources and also the nature of their relationship, acknowledgement uptake is observed to be preferred by the low proficiency ESL user. So the relationship between recast and acknowledgement being most evident in natural interactions is expected because the interlocutors are not engaging to acquire language skills, but rather to engage with the topic and also the content of the interaction. So in this case, language acquisition could happen subconsciously and also subliminally as they are evidence of uptakes with repairs. However, there are also other variables that can render the language acquisition to be minimal within peer-to-peer interactions in a natural setting. For example, it could lead to the users to code mix and code switch a lot, especially if they're share the same first language. So in natural interaction, it's common because they want to feel comfortable interacting with one another. So this will result to improper and inaccurate word formation and also sentence structures in regards to the interference from the first language, which will eventually affect their second language skills in either written or spoken form. So with that, I end our presentation with thank you.